August 3rd, 1944, Normandy, France. The earth trembled beneath steel tracks as a mechanical beast emerged through the morning haze. A shortened tank, but not as the Wehrmacht had known it. Chains whirled from a rotating drum mounted to its bow, thrashing the soil in violent percussion. Each strike sent fountains of dirt skyward, and then detonations. Mines buried weeks prior by retreating German engineers exploded harmlessly beneath the flailing steel, clearing a path 6 feet wide through fields that had been considered impassable. German machine gunners in hedgerow positions lowered their field glasses slowly, their faces registering something between disbelief and dread. They had prepared for American armor. They had not prepared for American ingenuity to simply erase their carefully laid defenses from existence. The minefields of Normandy were supposed to be Germany's silent, patient killers. After D-Day shattered Hitler's Atlantic Wall, German forces withdrew into the Bogage country, that dense patchwork of small fields bordered by ancient earthen banks and thick hedgerows. Here, where every meadow became a potential killing ground and every sunken lane a death trap, Wehrmacht engineers worked methodically, burying thousands upon thousands of Teller anti-tank mines and shoe mines. The logic was brutal and mathematical. Even if Germany could no longer stop the Allied advance outright, they could slow it to a crawl, bleeding American tank battalions one vehicle at a time, buying weeks or months for the fatherland to organize its defense. By late July 1944, entire sectors of the Norman countryside had been transformed into geometries of death, each mine carefully spaced, each field overlapping with artillery range cards. German defensive doctrine assumed these barriers would channel American armor into predictable avenues of approach, where PaK-40 anti-tank guns and concealed Panther tanks waited in ambush. They expected the Americans to clear mines the way every army had always cleared mines, slowly, painfully, by hand, with engineers crawling forward with bayonets and detectors while infantry provided cover. They expected fear. They expected hesitation. They expected time.
What rolled toward them instead was the Sherman Crab, the American adaptation of British mineflail technology, and it moved with the confidence of an army that had already solved tomorrow's problem yesterday. German soldiers watching from concealed positions saw their entire defensive philosophy rendered obsolete in minutes. Where a traditional mine-clearing operation might take hours and cost lives, these mechanical flails carved safe corridors through minefields at nearly walking speed. The chains, 43 of them, each tipped with steel balls, beat the ground in a blur, triggering mines through concussive force before any human foot or vehicle tread made contact. The sound was unholy, a rattling thunder that drowned out small arms fire and seemed to announce not just a tank, but an entire industrial civilization on the move. Behind each crab, entire columns of American armor and infantry poured through gaps that should not have existed, that by all conventional military logic could not have existed without significant casualties and delay. For the German defenders, many of them veterans of the Eastern Front, where warfare remained grinding and primitive, the psychological impact cut deeper than the tactical. These were men who had endured years of increasingly desperate struggle, who had watched the Wehrmacht's material superiority erode month by month, who had learned to husband every shell and gallon of fuel. They had been told that German engineering, German discipline, German tactical acumen would compensate for America's numerical advantages. They had believed, because they needed to believe, that quality would triumph over quantity. But the mineflail spoke a different language entirely. It was not merely a solution to a tactical problem, it was a statement of industrial philosophy. America had not just built more tanks than Germany. America had built specialized tanks to solve specific problems, had experimented and adopted and manufactured solutions faster than Germany could manufacture threats. One captured Obergefeiter, interrogated by Allied intelligence near Saint-Lô, spoke with hollow resignation. You make machines to do everything. Even bravery you have mechanized. The truth embedded in his bitter observation was more profound than he knew. The American military-industrial complex had indeed approached warfare as an engineering problem amenable to mechanical solutions. While German doctrine still valorized individual courage and tactical brilliance, American doctrine sought to minimize risk through technological innovation. The mineflail embodied a distinctly democratic military philosophy. protect the individual soldier not through appeals to duty or sacrifice, but through superior equipment and systematic problem-solving. The Sherman Crab crews did not need to be heroes. They only needed to drive forward and let the machine absorb the danger. This was warfare as assembly line, warfare as pragmatic engineering challenge, and it horrified an enemy still invested in romantic notions of martial valor. Reports from Wehrmacht units in Normandy during August 1944 record not just tactical setbacks, but morale crises, instances of entire squads surrendering when they realized their carefully prepared positions could be negated by machines they had never imagined existed.
The rotating flail drum became, in those summer weeks, a symbol that transcended its mechanical function. To Allied soldiers pushing inland, it represented safety, ingenuity, the comforting promise that someone back home had thought through the problem and engineered a solution. To German soldiers, it represented something more unsettling, evidence that they were not fighting merely a numerically superior enemy, but a fundamentally different kind of civilization, one that could afford to build purpose-specific machines for tertiary problems, one that valued efficiency and preservation of life over sacrifice and endurance. By mid-August, as American forces broke out of the Normandy hedgerows and began their race across France, reports filtered back to German high command, describing not just defeats, but a creeping paralysis of will. Minefields that should have held for days were breached in hours. Defensive positions that should have required week-long artillery preparations to reduce simply vanished behind the methodical advance of these flailing machines. September 1944. A destroyed Sherman Crab sits abandoned near the German border, its flailing arm bent and silent, victim of an 88mm anti-tank gun that finally found its mark. But the path behind it stretches clear and wide, and through that corridor, an endless column of American vehicles streams eastward. The crew had already bailed out, already been evacuated to field hospitals, where penicillin and plasma awaited, medicines Germany could no longer manufacture in sufficient quantity, delivered by a medical corps more sophisticated than anything the Wehrmacht had ever fielded. The machine had done its work. The machine had absorbed the blow meant for flesh. And somewhere ahead, another crab was already thrashing new ground, chains whirling, mines erupting harmlessly. The sound carrying across fields where German soldiers crouched in their diminishing positions and understood, finally, that they were not fighting an army. They were fighting the future, and the future did not even notice when they shot back.